Welcome to Football Geeks. Tonight's guest is a Nottingham Forest fan who's taken his passion and transposed that love into a new book, Got That Lovin Feelin, charting the 30 years between Frank Clark's appointment in 1993 to the present day. 3 decades observing breathless highs and gut-wrenching lows, a real fan story. I'm delighted to welcome this evening Warren Turner. Warren, hello, mate.
Hi, are you all right?
Yeah, I'm very well, mate. How are you? You okay?
Not too bad, thanks. Not too bad. I had a pretty heavy cold over the weekend, but just about getting over it.
Oh, but it seems to have shifted anyway, mate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, I was like, obviously for me, I'm a bit older than you. Forest for me were always like the six. When I first got into football in the late 70s, they were the club that was emergent, and they were huge. And I'd always sort of laboured under the misconception that they were a pretty stable club. But in the last 30 years, until Steve Cooper's appointment, things have been a bit turbulent, haven't they, over that period?
Certainly. Moving from manager to manager, from owner to owner, from chief executive to chief executive, and largely that period. For most of that period, there didn't ever seem to be a long-term plan in place. This is what we're going to do this year or in the next 5 years. Unlike clubs like, say, modern day Brighton, where they have a succession plan in place for every manager, and they have a certain style of play that they want to keep going from now into the future and thread it across all the age groups. We just, for a long time, made it up as we went along, really.
Yeah, and a couple of those managers were kind of ambassadors of the long ball, and then you'd have somebody who'd come in and want to play a bit of football, and there was, as you say, there was never any real succession, and it was really alarming for me to look at the list of managers that have come and gone in that time. I mean, I think if you include interim, which it's 36 changes of tenure in 30 years, which is an unbelievable amount, really, isn't it?
It is, but I don't think we're unique in having a high turnover of managers. You can look at a lot of football league clubs and find a similar kind of statistic. I suspect, anyway.
Yeah, I was looking at Watford, and apparently,
Well, one example, yeah.
Yeah, in the time that their owners have been in charge, they've had more managers than West Ham have had in their entire kind of existence. So
Really?
it just goes to show contextually, it's quite it's mad, isn't it? So, I mean, who, in your opinion, would you consider the worst of manager in the Forest story?
It's an obvious and slightly dull answer, but it has to be Gary Megson. Just bearing two things: the results. By the time he left us, we were in lower mid-table in League One, and also the performances as well. If you want an example of how bad it could get under Gary Megson, you can find a game against us playing Weymouth in the first round of the FA Cup. Just watch the last 20 minutes of that game, a real horror show. So I would have to say Gary Megson.
Yeah, I've got West Brom fans who supported West, obviously all their life, but during his period, he certainly brought some of that Megson factor to West Brom. Although they were promoted under him, but I think they won about 13 of the games 1-0 during the course of the season, so not particularly inspired stuff. Pretty tepid, but we're not going to go down that path tonight. We're going to talk about your all-time favorite 11, and we're going to use that as a kind of conduit to tell the story in the period of your book, which it explores in fantastic detail. So firstly, you've opted for a kind of like a 3-5-2 formation, which you could revert to a 5-3-2 or a 5-4-1 if one of the forwards tucked in. So in this very attacking looking 3-5-2, who is your keeper in this definitive Forest team?
I've gone for Brice Samba. He was a very competent goalkeeper. He could claim crosses, a good shot stopper, and also He had probably the best distribution of all the goalkeepers I can remember from Forest recent history, and also a showman as well. You put all those things together, and yeah, Brees seemed the obvious choice to me. Although honourable mentions go to Doris de Vries, who was a very good shot stopper, one player of the season for us, and Mark Crosley, although he didn't really play that much for us during the period of the book. And one or two other goalkeepers, Darren Ward, for example, Lee Camp, also performed, quite well for us over quite a long period.
I think Samba also kind of he cemented his place in the hearts of Forest fans by the 3 penalties he saved against Sheffield United in the playoff semi, didn't they? And of course there was a clean sheet in the final, which goes a long way to achieve yourself legend status within a football club. So
yeah, I think he'd already become a fan's favourite even before that semi-final. But certainly what a way to cement your legend, like you say. And you may have seen as well, after the penalty shootout against Sheffield United, he posted up a picture of a water bottle he had behind the goal with the likely direction that each penalty taker was going to opt for.
Oh man, so he'd done his homework.
Not half, yeah. And every time he took a swig from his bottle, he was obviously checking out where the next penalty was going to go.
Oh, that's a great story, Matt. That's great. So we've cleared that one. So we're moving on to, we're going to go for the right fullback or right wing back, as they're sometimes known. And I've seen this player live, and he spanked in a tremendous goal against my team, Birmingham City. But yeah, I'll let you go into detail. So who have you picked as your right wing back, Warren?
Jed Spence. He had an incredible impact in the recent promotion season, because of his pace getting forward. He could whip in across. He combined well with Brennan Johnson. Also, he could defend 1v1 as well. So a complete wing back for the modern game, really, I thought. And I couldn't think of anyone else of his caliber for that position. Nothing sprung immediately to mind anyway. So I went immediately for Jed Spence. And I think that's got to be the right. Matty Cash gets an honourable mention as well. A similar kind of player, but I thought Jed had a little bit more going for him defensively.
Yeah, but he was great going forward. He had a little touch of Trent Alexander-Arnold about him going forward, but probably was a bit more competent in the rear third of the field, as you say. And of course, he was in the team of the season as well, wasn't he? He was a real swashbuckling kind of Rolls Royce type of a player going forward, but also, as you say, very solid when it came to doing the dirty stuff as well. So we're going to move on to the right side of your centre 3 troika of defenders, and it's the boy from Sao Paulo, isn't it? It's so do you want to talk us through that one?
That's Felipe. It's probably a tired expression, but a Rolls Royce of a defender. That's so often applied to centre backs, isn't it? It's never applied to centre forwards or left wingers, is it? It's always centre backs, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's true in his case. He's tall, sleek, handsome, and very smooth in all his movements. You can only imagine how good he would have been, between the ages of 28 to 30. That time in a centre half's career, where they marry prime physicality with experience and know-how.
Yeah, and he had previous, because he won the Campeonato in Brazil with Corinthians, and won league titles with Porto and Atletico Madrid. So So when he came in, there must have been that realization that you were getting quite a player.
Not, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what people expected, because the transfer business we'd done over the last 9 months had been hit and miss. So I don't think anyone was expecting great things from Felipe, and I don't think he had the most comfortable of starts. But after a few games, once he'd bedded into the team, he was excellent for us. Like I say, really smooth and very intelligent in everything that he did: clearances, positioning, distribution from the back, good in the air as well. A complete central defender. It's just a pity he's 34 now.
Yeah, and towards the tail end. But then we're going to look at his defensive partner, who you've put at the centre of that middle three. Do you want to go and talk about that one for us, Warren?
Musa Niakate. Yeah, I really like this guy. He came in the second half of the season, and he brought us increased defensive stability. He brought some pace to the defensive lineup. Good in 1v1s, again good in the air, and also he brings with him that incredible long throw he's got, which his throw-ins into the box, they land all in an arc-like fashion, which makes them very difficult for opposition defenses to clear, because you can't really get much purchase on the header. So yeah, he brings with him that attacking threat from throw-ins, and not just his defensive qualities as well. So he seemed like an obvious choice.
Yeah, he had a certain comfortability on the ball as well. I mean, I think that sort of comes from his knowledge, his period in the German game, because they rely on defenders to be more than defenders, don't they? They have to have that distribution and that yeah. So yeah, great choice. But moving on to the left side of that three, there's a more familiar name in there, isn't there? One that everyone will know.
Michael Dawson. Yeah, perhaps this is born of nostalgia, because Michael was a key figure during one of my favourite periods following Forest, when Paul Hart was manager. I really wanted to have someone from that period in the team, and not only that, Michael was an excellent defender for us. I think he was better actually for Tottenham. He really became an all-round very good defender in a Tottenham shirt. I think for us, sometimes he showed naivety with his positioning. Sometimes he was caught out by some good strikers in that league, a little bit too often for my liking. But one thing that we loved about Michael at Forest was the way he could ping balls around the park just with consummate ease. It was something that we'd never really seen before from a central defender.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, defenders in that league tend to defend. They're not renowned for their kind of their prowess going forward, are they? But there's no doubt in his career, he's, England international, and to have him in your side, it can only be a benefit, really. So moving on to complete that defensive five, or you could see as a defensive three with two attacking wing backs. We'll look at left wing back. So who are you looking at there, Warren?
We've not been blessed with quality players in that position over the years. After quite a lot of deliberation, I went for Chris Cohen. He played mostly in central midfield for us, and for Yeovil, his former club as well. But I reckon he played his best football for us as an attacking fullback. And I think he would work quite well as a left wing back as well. The downside would be his relative lack of pace. It's something he's acknowledged that may have held him back in that position. but he would bring leadership qualities. He was, of course, our skipper for quite a while. Comfortable with the ball in that position. Good at defending. Excellent crosser of the ball as well.
Yeah, and 500 appearances in the Garibaldi shirt as well. But it was the injuries that kind of saw the end of his career. He had 3 really awful ones when he was at Forest, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Did his ligaments 3 times in the knee. So I've had one of those injuries, and believe me, that it's difficult to regain the full strength and flexibility in your knee from just one rupture, so let alone 3.
Yeah, no, that's probably why you lack that that little bit of elusive pace that you talk of. So we'll move into our midfield, and the next player in 2 spells over Forest, he became for me a name that was, it seemed like an ever present on the kind of team sheet, because of his incredible reliability more than anything. But there was more to that than that, wasn't there, Warren? So tell us who it is first, and then go into his story.
Oh, sorry, are we on the left or the right?
We're looking to the left side of
Right.
that midfield triumvirate.
So that would be Andy Reid then. He's on the left because he's left-footed. So I thought, well, that would be a square peg in a square hole there.
Yeah.
He would be there to run the midfield. When he played with Chris Cohen, they were a very good combination together, although Andy Reid was another player not known for his speed, so we might have a few problems down that side when it comes to pace.
I think just maybe sit in and then just pick your
I
moment.
envisage in this team Jed Spence would be bombing on all the time, and Chris would be a little bit more judicious with his forward movements.
Yeah.
But Andy would bring a whole host of attributes. He's got a great through ball on him. Got a great eye for a pass. All of his former teammates say that. He's a really excellent crosser from deep. So many of his assists in a Forest shirt came from those crosses about 35 yards out, sort of perpendicular with the corner of the penalty area. And a great shot from distance as well.
Yeah, he bagged quite a few goals, didn't he? His goal ratio was pretty good, but I think, as you say, that kind of like whipped in ball from well outside the box was probably a symptom of that lack of pace. The ball always had to come in from deeper because he was, as you say, thinking about where he was on the pitch. So yeah.
In the later stages of his career, he was never going to go on the outside of fullbacks, so
No.
he compensated for that, crossing from deep, and he did it very, very well.
Yeah, became more of a player that sat in that centre square in the middle of the park, didn't he? And just kind of and just brought other players into the game. But yeah, in fact, a great player, a really great player, and one of those ones that's forgotten over time. And I don't know, chiefly because there's every team has one, but probably Forest haven't had one quite as good as him for a long time. So moving on, we go to the centre of your 3-man midfield. Who have you picked to occupy that space?
Morgan Gibbs-White. I'm saying this with the caveat that he's not had a great start to the current season. He was very frustrating last night, mixing moments of outstanding skill with misplaced passes and flicks that didn't come off. That's Morgan for you. But when he's on fire, when he's on form, when those touches and turns are coming off, then he's a fabulous number 10, the best Forest player I can think of in that position. So he would be the spearhead of that midfield 3.
Yeah, well, he's got plenty more time to sell. You've got him on a 5-year deal, haven't you? So he's there for a while, and as you say, he's got youth on his side, so he can only develop and get better, really. So who's going to play alongside him on the right there, mate?
That's Ryan Yates. When Steve Cooper plays a three at the back, that's usually Ryan's position on the right hand side there of the midfield, and that's a position that he's made his own during the promotion season. He was fantastic on that season, tackling, distributing the ball sensibly. He not only wins the ball, he winds up opponents. He's got that cheeky grin. He wins us free kicks. As everyone acknowledges, he's not the most technical of footballers, but all those qualities he does bring has made him one of our best players, I think, in recent years.
Yeah,
and deserving of that midfield spot.
And every team needs that little wind-up merchant, don't they? Who can get under the skin of the opposition. I think it's an essential component to most teams. We had one on Birmingham City. Had Robbie Savage. He just used to kind of completely. He's the kind of player. If he plays for you, you love him. But if he plays for anyone else, everybody else hates him. But that was what was great about him in his tenure with us. He was our style of player because that was how we played, and he matched that kind of template perfectly. So we're moving into our top two, okay? Our attacking pairing, and this one will come as no surprise to anyone because he's been absolutely exceptional for the last couple of seasons. Do you want to tell us who it is?
Taiwo Onye. Yeah, I couldn't. He was the first choice for a centre forward position. As anyone can see, as all those people who now have him in their fantasy teams know, he's not only a regular goal scorer, he's an assister as well. He's strong, quick, holds the ball up, can run in behind. Very good piece of transfer business. He cost under 20 million. I'm sure he's doubled his value now.
Definitely, he's got that kind of, Antonio for West Ham, but with more goals in him. He's that kind of a great kind, huge, amazing pace, great hold up skills. But he hits the back of the net as well. I mean, Antonio is a bit hit and miss for West Ham. He either has a great game or he's not so good. But your guy, he seems very, very consistent and a constant. He must be a nightmare for defenders, knowing he's on your shoulder. He's good. He's terrifying, I would imagine. And also in those kind of balls over the top when it's 50-50, he's got the muscle, and he always tends to be the winner in those one-on-one duels with centre halves.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And well, some people point out that so many of his goals come from about 6 yards out. Well, okay, fair enough. But the fact that he gets himself into those positions, speaks volumes for him. It's an art making space in the box and getting on the end of crosses.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a box player, is he? But he scores a lot of goals from 6. But that's, as you say, finding the position, making that run, and he's got the pace to get there. And yeah, he really looks a player. And I think there's more to come, isn't there?
So, well, we do hope so. Yeah, we do hope so. And I'm sure if he stays injury free, he's going to go on to score possibly 20 goals this season.
Fantastic. And I mean, Forest fans must be absolutely delighted at this moment in time, because it seems like the circle has been completed after all this time. But moving on to his part, we'll talk about that more in a short while. Talking about his strike partner, who have you opted for to fill that role alongside Awoniyi?
Brennan Johnson. He would play on the right of that front two. Well, sad to see him go, but maybe it was good. Maybe it was a good time both for us and Brennan Johnson to part ways. We got a good fee for him, which has enabled us to reinvest in the squad in positions where it's needed. As for Brennan, the player, as everyone knows, very quick, possibly the quickest in the Premier League. He's also a good finisher as well, got a good touch. He scored a fabulous goal against Everton at home last season. Ball comes into him, kills it with one touch, finishes with the other. I think that's when people looked at him and thought, well, okay, there is a real Premier League player. He's not just a speed merchant. There is a serious football player.
Yeah, well, I mean, he prior to being a Premiership player, he was the EFL Young Player of the Season, wasn't he? So that was a huge statement of intent. And as you say, fast and tricky, good feet, and a great finisher. So that completes your team of the last 30 years with some fantastic components in there. But what I'd like to ask you now is, who were the players over the last 30 years who gave Forest fans nightmares? The players where it was just, oh no, not him.
Oh my word. I'm sorry to this gentleman, but the name that just springs automatically into my mind is Eugene Daddy. He only played for us for a few games when Gary Megson was manager, but I do remember he came on as a sub on his debut, and his first contribution was to get a yellow card, and I don't think it got any better than that. Sorry, Eugene. I reckon I brought him up in the book, if memory serves me right, as well. I'm sure he's a really lovely chap to get to know, but that was the first name that came into my mind immediately.
And was he one of Megson's purchases as well?
Yeah, it came for about a fee of about 50 grand, if I remember rightly, from Tranmere, I believe his last club was, where he actually has quite a nice highlights reel.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, but just didn't come off for him.
No,
or a shirt.
A man after Megson's heart, Warren.
Quite possibly, yeah.
And in those 30 years, there's been some great performances. But are there any games that stick out as the woeful ones where you were it was a hard watch?
Yeah, that Weymouth one that I mentioned earlier. That was a 1-1 draw against a team 5 or 6 divisions below us, and in the last 20 minutes, if you watch the video, it's hard to tell who was the Football League team. Really. There were some other bad ones in the League One days. Losing 5-0 at Oldham, 3-0 at Chester in the Cup. That was another game under Gary Megson. One of the worst you'll ever see. And just moving on through the years, it wasn't a particularly good time to watch the club. After Fawaz Al-Hassawi's money had been spent, and we had to go into kind of financial retrenchment. Similarly, the football under Dougie Freedman went into defensive mode. Some of the games under his reign were not great to watch. There was one against Milton Keynes, which I mentioned in the book, where we had something like, I don't know, 30% possession of the ball against Milton Keynes Dons on our home turf. We won that game, but that was a tough watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a kind of style of play that Forest fans are attuned to, is it? Because I always romantically see Forest as quite a fluent and good football playing side, and to have to endure the Megsons and the Freedmans must have been awful for Forest fans. So anyway, guys, thank you for guesting for us tonight, mate. So where is this fantastically detailed and collegial book of yours available from, Warren?
It's available online. You can find it on Amazon. I haven't checked in the bookshops yet, but I don't know, if you're walking past Waterstones one day, you could maybe give it a go there. But certainly it's available online at Amazon.
I think the real buzz is when you see it on that shelf in Waterstones, isn't it? That's going to be signifying of some sort of arrival, anyway. But it's a great book, guys. If you are in Waterstones looking for something to pick up and really get into, this is the book for you. Anyway, guys, see you next time on Football Geeks for more wonderful football stories. All the best.